So this is the perfect segue to shift to a segment. The streets are talking. My friend Gabby Union had some thoughts on about a fear of potentially being a bad mom. So I'm gonna play that, and we can talk about it on the other side.
How has your bond with Kavya evolved over time, including what you saw from her eyes on the trip?
I think I was afraid of being a bad mom, of just not living up to the great moms that I grew up with. I was afraid. Like, I didn't want my lack of, understanding or knowledge on every single thing to have this, leave this gaping hole in her life. And so I was probably more timid initially when she was very young. And then as I got more confidence, I'm like, oh, we're all winging it.
So that's a real legitimate fear.
And I can relate to that too.
Yeah.
And I remember Janine and Deidre have so many girlfriends as they grow older. Like, I have 2 daughters, but I really have about 20 other daughters.
You got 21 and 22 right here.
I'm happy to have you. The more the merrier. But one of her friends, we were in the kitchen. I was cooking for everybody. And she asked me, she said, Sandra, she said, can you give me some advice on motherhood? Because she has 2 children that she was having problems with. And I'm not going to mention her name, but I said, I called her by, I just stopped what I was doing. And I looked at her and I said, I'm not a professional at this, but one thing I know for sure, however you want your children to grow up to be, baseline, you need to be that way too. So that's the starting point. Okay, it's not, you have to set an example for them and show them direction. Everything else from it can be very creative in terms of who you are as an individual and so forth and so on. But you have got to be the role model for them. So if you want your children to be honest or this, that, and the other, you need to be that way also.
I mean, I think, though, that's the fear, right? I think some people know that maybe they have a lot of work to do. Mm-hmm. Maybe they know that they're not the nicest of people or that they're dealing with their own trauma and demons. And I know that my mom battled with that, right? Raising women at that, how we show up not only in our friendships, but very much at work. I feel like I got more of a lesson on really being a hard worker than being a good person, juggling jobs and balancing that than really being intimate. I think I've had an issue with intimacy because that's actually not what I was shown. But I was shown a hardworking woman because that's all my mom really knew how to give. She was on her own since she was 16. She left the house at 16, right? And so I'll be honest, I've had a lot of friends now in their late 30s, early 40s, where they know that they're going against the biological clock. And they're like, I'm still trying to figure out myself. I don't even think I want to be a mom anymore. I couldn't imagine having to be now a role of a whole nother being. You're now a mom. That's another title, right? We now have our titles in our jobs. Yeah. We have our titles with our friends, with our lovers. To add that title, I think, is very stressful. Yeah. The idea of literally raising and being responsible, it's another responsibility. It's another task. I'm a millennial. It's another bill. Yeah. Oh my God, with inflation, like the ideas, and it's just like the fear of how do I add one more thing to my plate? Mm-hmm. That's the fear now. And then again, being a good person. Let me make sure I don't raise a serial killer. Let me make sure, you know what I mean? You really got to be thoughtful in knowing that you're responsible for bringing this person into the world. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I'll get on the highest of mountains. I will ride whatever roller coaster. I already know the fear of me raising a child is another reason why I'm good. I would feel like I was out of control. Yeah. In terms of, I don't have the control of how that person realistically will be in society.
I completely respect that. I'm only asking this question for conversational purposes.
Go
I'm
ahead.
not trying to change anybody's mind because I made my decision. But I am curious. Let's say you meet the love of your life.
Yes.
You find intimacy. You are showing parts of yourself to this man you ain't never showed before. And he says, baby, I want a walking, talking, living, breathing expression of our love. I want us to have a child. You say what?
You haven't listened to me. I think that it's very important now at 33 to to really know what I want. And so therefore, if I'm dating, I'm not going to change a guy's mind on the things that they're set in. There's a lot of men who have had enough kids and do not want any more and will be adamant that they do not want any more. And so to me, knowing that I have these fears of how I would show up, and men, they would want the mother of their children to be a good mother, right? When we're talking about the fear of being a bad parent.
Yeah.
I just don't know if that's a role that I'm ready for. And so I would tell him, you have not listened to me. And maybe this is not where you should be then, because I would want you to be somewhere that you get all the things out of life that you want as well. And I think that would be like my foot down. And that's a conversation I'm now having very early. In your 30s as women, do you want marriage? Do you want kids? Do you want to cohabitate? How do we split the bills? Are we splitting the bills? Is there a different percentage? And I think that as women, we have to kind of know what we want before we can, partner with someone. And so my response would be like, I don't think you've listened to me. And it hurts that we're having this conversation.
That is a very mature response. I'll get your advice on some other things on a later show because I need that kind of advice. Mrs. Tate, I want to ask your advice because I talked a bit about the relationship with my mother, and I just so love how you said, I came home and I was stressed out, and you saw yourself. My mom and I talk to her every day, so we're fine. There's a lot of wounds that I don't know that will heal, but they're in the past. So we are close. But I still hold some of the pain that I experienced from childhood. And I'm just curious what advice you might offer to somebody middle-aged. We don't have our parents here forever. I have her for a finite amount of time. How to navigate challenging relationships and to give her more grace for what she went through and all the sacrifices that she made for my brother and me. How I can view her with more compassion.
Well, I really think, because you're not the only one in a situation like this, because my mother also left when we were very young. And in a way, it was like this for me, because when she was there, she was alcoholic. And when you get older, I realized my mother had a disease. She had a disease, and maybe she also, I always remember her being very beautiful and people always commenting on her figure and her shape. And then, like I knew she was partying and doing all of these different things. And she also, it was only when she was drinking that her behavior was like out of control. Like one time she sent me to the store. I went to the store, and at the time we lived way out in Long Island.
Way out.
And the store was about a mile, and I bought the wrong thing home. She was drunk. She had a knife in her hand and she threw it at me. It's something I'll never, ever forget. See, that's why I'm saying bad things that happen to me. When you get old enough, when you're old, you're mature enough to make a decision about your life and about yourself. Because I also came to realize the older I got, my mother had a serious problem, drinking, and that wasn't really her, because when she was sober, she was a different person. And before she died very young, probably because of the drinking, I was in my early 20s when I lost my mother. At least she got to see my younger daughter, Deidre, as babies. But we had a respect. I loved her and a respect. And even now on Mother's Day, I said it would really be nice if my mom was here. So you just need to,
see her
just
as a
stand
human.
up and be a big woman and just say, forget it. Try as best as you can and know that your mother, the things that you didn't like, that it really wasn't her. It was anything else. And try to forgive her for that. Just forgive her and really forget. And when these things come into your mind, you chase them away. You chase them away. Like I tell my grandson all the time that, because he was trying to be an actor at one time and things didn't, and then he was like, I said, you know what you need to do whenever you feel down or you broke up with your girlfriend? Always keep a picture of 5 beautiful moments in your life that you can call up right on command, and it automatically makes you feel better. And also just put a smile on your face, because when you smile, there's endorphins that are released that will actually change your whole chemistry.
There is.
And to get you through the hard moments or hard times, or if you're afraid of something, you have to be in control, because nobody is going to make you feel better. You got to do it yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
Why don't we have Kleenex on this set? I'm about to do this.